Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Ball Roundtable. I'm your host, Joe Morgan, and we got four guys in here with us tonight. We're a little shy, so we're going to go straight into it, though. We got a couple of questions this week, and we're going to break with questions from the listeners. So we had Anime Comic Nerd write in, and he asked us, let's see, what do you think would happen if the world lost all power and energy? So, Brad, do you want to start us off with what you think would happen if we lost all power and energy?
Sure, I'll start it off. If we just lost all power and energy, I mean, your major cities is going to be chaos, looting, rioting, burning, pillaging. I mean, they do that now on a regular basis. So if they lost power and energy, your emergency services are no more. There's no calling the police, ambulance, fire trucks. There's none of that. Security systems are going to be down. Credit cards not going to work anymore. Your rural areas are probably going to have some of the same stuff going on, but a lot less. Sure, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed, just stealing, killing, thrilling, dealing, willing. That's all I can think of that rhymes with that right now. But it would, I don't know, you'd basically be thrown back into whatever century it was before we had stable electricity. People in the country, I feel like, are probably more prepared for it. A lot of people in the country have stocked foods. Some people have generators where if you have a gas generator, you can run it till you run out of fuel, I guess. Gas pumps at gas stations aren't going to work unless they're, I guess you could tap them, cipher them out, but it would just be pure chaos. Chaos.
Yep. Daniel, what do you think?
I agree with Brad 100%. Not only are you not going to be able to purchase anything, be able to use electricity at nighttime, so night times are going to be probably the most frightening, I would imagine. I agree that country people are probably better suited for a situation like that. A lot of times just because their power grids go down a lot of times during storms anyway, and so I know like our grandparents were without power for I think 6 days a couple of weeks ago. But now if you had a total power outage, my main concern is that like all record keeping anymore is done on computers, and the inaccessibility of information is what leads to, I mean, you can't identify people, and so you're able to get away with a whole lot more, which also puts people in a lot more fear, and then violence comes into the picture. So I agree with Brad. I think it'd be just a total chaotic mess, and you'd be, as bad as I hate to admit it because you think people should be able to survive pretty easily without electricity, it would be post-apocalyptic, I believe.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Uno, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's hard to disagree with those. I mean, I don't know what else I can add to it, but I mean, you're going to have people that don't even know how to change a tire on their vehicle now, that they're going to be in a world of hurt pretty quick. I mean, if they don't even know how to start a fire without, one of those log starters or whatever you buy at Home Depot or whatever, I mean, or how to even chop firewood. And I mean, there's going to be energy. You just may not have, electricity coming through an outlet. The Earth gives us plenty of energy to use. We just need to know how to actually utilize it to survive. And so, you're gonna have people going crazy, like Brad and Daniel said, and people, food, water is your first and foremost concern, and I think light, for safety. But excuse me. So, I mean, I don't know what else to add to that other than, the preppers that people have been making fun of are going to be prepared. And people, even me, I'm not really a prepper. but I do. I don't have food for a year, stored away or anything like that. But I think I'd be fine. I know how to survive on the land, so I think I'd be fine. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be hard with a family of five now, with a new baby, and hospitals rely on energy, and like Brad said, on emergency services and that kind of thing. It's going to be a whole different world. You're going to have to be digging up roots and going to Oklahoma to find someone to somebody to help you with the land. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get you. I tend to think what tends to happen, at least in a lot of these post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows and things. First, it starts with a round of chaos. The people that survive the chaos start to form bands together, and so I think you'd eventually have a slow reestablishment of everything. But you're looking at ground zero. Everything's resetting. You are Control Alt Delete, restart the world at that point. Now, people that like you said are already used to living off the land, or are from a little further out, they're used to being a little less without. I think are going to do better. In the situation though, like we're square in the middle of a residential zone right now, and we just moved in. I don't know anybody that lives around me. I'm huddling up with firearms in the nights, and then being very careful about what I go out to during the day, and it would be total chaos. And that actually leads into his other, or her, Anime Comic Nerd's next question. What if the world ran on solar power? So, not that we have no power, but it's all solar power. What do you think, Brad?
Well, the way solar power is now, there you would have massive areas with no power. Areas that do have some solar power set up, there would be rolling blackouts. The problem with the solar panels is it takes a lot of them to provide enough energy to live the way we're living now. Now you could probably do something where you could direct your solar energy to only run things like refrigerator, freezers for food reasons, to keep food from spoiling. You're not gonna nobody. Not say nobody, but most people aren't going to be able to live the same lifestyle they have now on solar panels. They're not efficient enough. They're too expensive. A couple of years ago, I don't know now. A couple of years ago, if you hooked up solar panels to your roof and you ran your house off solar panels, they did have a lifetime usage of 20 years, and they paid for themselves in 40 years with the amount of energy you would save, amount of money you would save on your energy bill. So basically, it's useless. It's okay. I can they pay for themselves in 40 years. Well, in 20 years, I have to replace them. Doesn't make sense. So the way it is right now, I just don't think there's any way possible the whole world or the United States or a state could run off pure solar power. It's not efficient enough. You have to have solar panels the size of football fields everywhere for major areas to run off of that.
Okay, Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think. Let me grab this mic real quick. I don't think that, like Brad was saying, the way that it's set up right now, that there's any way that solar power would be able to provide enough electricity, would be able to be converted into enough electricity for the amenities that we have now. You're not going to be able to run every single appliance and every single thing that you would want to be able to plug into an outlet and run. Even for instance, we bought a weed eater today for the new place. It's an electric weed eater. We bought 200-foot extension cords, and that would be something that would be, needed to be put to the wayside because you'd be wanting to conserve the energy as much as possible. Beyond that, the process of making the solar panels, I feel like, would take electricity to some extent in order to produce it. So in order to get them, you would need the electricity in the first place, which would have to be ran on something other than solar panels. So it's it's a cycle. If you were able to capture and transfer the energy in a much more efficient manner, like Brad was saying, then it would be plausible at best. But right now, I don't think there's any way that you would be able to capture and transfer enough energy to run a town, let alone, you're talking about a state, country, or beyond. So I agree with Brad.
All right. Uno, what's your take on it, bud?
You bought an electric weed eater? Wow. So that kind of will prove my point. Will electric weed eater work? Yeah, it might, but for how long and how productive is it going to be? So, not throw you under the bus with electric weed eater, but you compare it to you compare it to like a real gas weed eater. It's not going to last. And the power's not there. It works, yes, but it's not ideal. And like Brad said, I don't know all the science behind solar panels. I know when I was a kid, my granddad had solar panels on top of his house just to help with his electric bill, but I don't know how much he actually spent to get that. I don't know if he saved any money doing it. It all boils down to the dollar. Are Americans willing to spend 4 times the amount, 2 times the amount, 3 times the amount, 1.5 times the amount? I don't know what it's going to cost to do that, and is it plausible? Is it plausible? Maybe, but how much land space, how much land mass do you have to take up to be able to generate as much energy as you do with a coal plant, a natural gas plant, a nuclear plant, whatever? Like I said, I don't know the science behind it. I don't know how much, square footage or how many acres it takes to produce as much as a regular coal plant or any of those other type of plants. I don't know, but if it was cheaper and more efficient, then we would be going that way, I would assume. So you can throw politics in this all you want, but generally the American people, if we can find something that is cheaper, that is more productive, we usually go that direction. And I don't see us in my lifetime ever going that direction. That's really all I have on that.
So, kind of what I'm wondering is, okay, so I was talking to some guys the other night. I just bought this house in the state of Arkansas. They were looking at building another nuclear power plant, and they looked at the cost of that, and they said, well, what if we took that money instead and we spent that helping everybody weatherize their homes? And so they've got a program set up, and I'm on the list. I should hear from it in 8 to 10 weeks, I think is what they said. And they'll come out, they'll look at my home, they'll look everything over, they'll add insulation and caulk things and weatherize the house up to $300 or $400, I think, free of charge. I just had to get on a waiting list to do it. And the house is a little bit older, so that's a good thing. The question is, what if it was a similar situation with the solar panels or wave energy or wind energy or something they haven't invented yet? I don't know. If instead of they somehow subsidized it, I don't know, to start easing everybody onto these things. So what if every house had solar panels on it, or every house had, I don't know. Would that help ease the burden on the power grid a bit? It may, but then again, the cost of maintaining them may vastly outweigh it. I don't know. And ideally, long term, looking at it from a green perspective, it would be better in the long term from the way they talk. But financially, that's completely out the window, I think. Anybody have anything else regarding either of these questions?
Yeah, I was going to say one thing. Unless Daniel wants to go, I saw him reaching for his mic.
You can go ahead. I'll go after you.
I was just going to say, I don't know the numbers now where they've been shutting down a lot of coal-burning power plants. A few years ago, the problem with wind, solar, and hydraulic power, it just doesn't produce enough in its current state. A few years ago, it was coal. Coal produced around 49% electricity in the country. Natural gas was like 45 or 47, and yeah, I think it was 49, 47, which is math. Me no thank you. But wind, solar, and hydraulic all added together only made up like 4 or 5% of where this nation gets its power. And like Joe was saying, price cost, it's not plausible right now. It's too expensive to do. Those giant windmills were like, a few years ago, they were like $6-7 million total cost to build it and have it put up. And then on top of that, they're made of steel. People use coal to burn steel because it's the only thing that burns hot enough to make good steel. And as of right now, coal and natural gas are the cheapest way to produce electricity. And I'm one that says, dig it, drill it, pump it, burn it. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'll preface this response by saying that for most of the viewers, I don't know if you know or not, but me and Brad come from working in the coal mines, so that's our background. We're obviously for the use of it. We're obviously for the ways in which we get it. Beyond that, I've got it pulled up right now on howstuffworks.com, and it's on a page called Green Living. And it says, because solar electricity is so expensive, you would normally go to great lengths to reduce your electricity consumption. Things like instead of using desktops, you would need to buy a laptop. Things instead of using incandescent lights, you would need to use fluorescent lights. It says that for 100 watts per hour for a year of normal power usage based off of natural gas and coal burning, it costs about $91 a year. For solar, you're talking about getting into the thousands of dollars for that same amount of electricity, and that's why you don't see it except for houses in really remote areas, is because you cannot put enough solar panels up in a residential area or in a city to there's just like Uno said, there's not enough land mass to put them up. Even if you put them on the tops of every buildings, it wouldn't be enough to provide electricity for, maybe one apartment within the building or whatever. So it's just right now it's not feasible. Beyond that, I was going to say let's go ahead and roll this into the political. Kyle had the politics this week and he was unable to join us. So let's go ahead and take this, since we were talking some about the use of nuclear energy, and I want to get some feedback on what you guys think about nuclear energy. Right now, there's a huge fight for nuclear energy, and the people that protest nuclear anything have been saying for years and years that all it is a hazard and an accident waiting to happen. Like what was it, Fukushima, when the tidal wave hit from the tsunami?
Chernobyl.
Well, yeah, you got to remember that was in the 70s. So we're talking.
Island, is that the name of the?
But we're talking about, right now there are a lot of we're using nuclear powered submarines, nuclear powered aircraft carriers. Yeah, we're using we're using nuclear energy anyway, and there are a lot of other countries that are using nuclear energy for their main source of electricity. Along with coal, I believe. So I just want to get some of your all's feedback on that.
My concern is, where do you store the waste? I'm sure they figured lead pipes in the middle of the ground in the Gobi Desert. I don't know. I have no problem with it other than that. Somebody else speak, please.
Well, I don't know all that much about nuclear energy. I know. Sorry, my nose is itching. I know up in North Texas, close to where I was born, there's a big nuclear plant up there, and as far as I know, they haven't had any issues there. But as long as it can be maintained and it's safe, and hang on a second, gosh. I mean, as long as it's productive, and it's affordable, and we can get energy out of it, I'm go for it. I don't care what it is, to be honest. But yeah, the waste thing is a concern. So, I mean, if we can do it to where it's affordable, it's safe for the environment, it's safe for workers around, I say go for it. But I don't know all that much about it.
I'll say this real quick before Brad gives his answer. I believe that the price of it initially would be a little expensive, but from everything that I've seen after kind of that initial, because it costs to build it, beyond that, the price would drop drastically because unlike solar energy, you're able to get massive amounts of electricity out of a small amount of energy to begin with. So I believe that your pricing issue would be reduced drastically from what I understand.
Yeah, I'm not very knowledgeable about nuclear power either, but what Daniel was saying, I do know what Daniel was saying was right, that it is an expensive startup cost, I guess you would say. Building nuclear power plants costs a lot of money with all the regulations that are put on it. I mean, building coal power plants now in this day and time with the EPAs, it's Obama said years ago that if you try and build a new coal power plant, you're going to go bankrupt because we're basically going to put so many regulations on you. I'm okay with nuclear energy. I feel like whatever is the cheapest for everyday working man or woman to pay for is the way you need to go. Now, I don't think you should just be dumping nuclear waste into every river you see, which is what the EPA does in Colorado. It's not nuclear waste, but they dump 3 million gallons of waste into the river. But that's a different story. But as long as you're, like y'all said, making it where it's safe as can be and as environmental friendly as can be, if it's cheaper, I say do it. A lot of people, say that burning coal has caused a lot of these problems. If you really do some research on it, there's tons of climate scientists that say it's absolute baloney. They're using it just to push an agenda to make money and make this green energy stuff, and CO2 is what that's what people breathe out every day. There's CO2 in canned beverages. I just don't believe that burning coal from power plants kills people, and that's what they try and claim. Joe Biden actually said that China burning coal, because they have a lot less regulations and restrictions, China burning coal is going to kill Americans somehow.
I will say this for China, and I don't know what to attribute it to. They have a terrible smog problem, like can't walk outside and hang out smog problem.
Well, yeah, they have hardly any regulations and restrictions. I'm not saying you can't do that, because that's what happens. People take advantage, they destroy everything. You do have to have some form of regulation, but it's gotten to the point now where you can't do anything.
Yeah,
and it's insane. China burning coal is not going to affect us. It doesn't affect the air we breathe. It's not. There's no way. It's not.
Yeah,
that's what people claim.
Yeah, I do think it's funny though that they had to they built a big LCD screen. I don't remember where it was in China, one of those big cities that had the smog problem, to broadcast the sunrise because they couldn't see it for the smog.
I believe it was Beijing, wasn't it?
It may have been. I just think that's crazy. All right, guys, good topic. Let's go ahead and move into our regular show now. We are going to kick things off. Uno, are you prepped with your trick shot?
Yeah, I'm prepped.
Then, sir, you are the break.
I think I'm prepped. All right, I'm going to start with a question. Well, it is a question. Okay, and let's see, who will I start with today? Okay, since Brad is all the way left, I'll go Brad, Daniel, then Joe. Okay, so if you had, I have to read this off my phone because I can't remember I hadn't looked at it since then. If you had one law, whether it be federal, state, local, county, city, whatever, that you could get rid of or abolish, what would it be? Why, and how do you think it would affect society? Brad, you go first.
Oh man, one law. To be honest, there's a bunch, but I'm going to go with one of the friendlier ones. Seatbelt law. To me, I think that, there should be a law for kids to have to be in child safety seats, on up to a certain age. But by the time you're 18 years old, law considers you an adult. I don't think that the city, state, federal, anybody in the government has any business telling you requirement by law that you have to wear your seatbelt. If you're 18 years old, if you don't want to wear your seatbelt, pour it on. If I'm wearing my seatbelt and Uno's not wearing his and we get in a head-on collision, is him not wearing his seatbelt going to affect me? No. The government's job is not to protect you from you. The government's job is not to make sure everybody makes it and everybody's happy. That's not what the government's supposed to do. And this whole seatbelt law is just a money scam. They can pull you over not having a seatbelt on, write you a ticket for $25, $40, $50. You can go to court, but they're not going to throw that out. You're going to have to pay the fine. It's just an easy money grab. Along the same lines as the helmet law. State of Kentucky, you have to wear a seatbelt, but riding a motorcycle, you don't have to wear a helmet. What? I just think the whole seatbelt law is a joke.
All right, Daniel, go ahead.
Brad, I have to agree with Brad's. That was the one I was probably going to go with, just for the simple fact of it is a law that's placed on a citizen in which it doesn't affect other parties once you're an adult. Like he was saying, if you get in a car wreck and you're not wearing a seatbelt, that's not hurting other people, it's hurting yourself. Tobacco use is not necessarily a safe thing, and they put warning labels on the tobacco, but you can still use it. With those two things being said, I'm going to go ahead. This is a touchy subject, and I'm not condoning the use of drugs at all. I'm not saying to do them. I'm not saying that I think they're okay to use by any means. But I think that the federal laws against marijuana are in particularly crazy, and it's why we have so many inmates in prison for nonviolent crimes, is because of the drug laws that we have. And like I said, I'm not condoning drug use. I'm not saying that I'm okay with drug use, but I believe, as with the seatbelt situation, that it is something that you're doing to your own person, and I don't like especially the federally mandated laws in which they become felonies and people have to spend 15, 20 years in for possession of a narcotic that's basically harmless to anyone else around the person using it, and pretty much harmless to the person who's using it. So I think that would be the one that I would stand against, even though, like I said, I'm not a drug user myself, and I don't condone it. But I just think, from a purely constitutional standpoint, that is a terrible precedent to set.
Okay, Joe?
Man, that's a hard one. The only thing that really comes to mind for me is like, what is it? Not housing authority. What is it called? Where you got this group, if you live in a certain community, this group can impose certain restrictions on what
homeowners association.
Yeah, homeowners association. Now,
well, let me stop you there. That's not a law. You choose to live in that neighborhood knowing that there's a homeowners association. So that's not technically a law, but I see you can go there. I'm just saying.
I mean, can it get legal? Because I know I have overheard coworkers talking about how Like they were being taken, I think, to civil court, being fined
Yeah,
for
it
having
can,
the
but
wrong
that's a
kind of.
contract. That's a contract issue. So you sign, like when you just closed on your house, you sign those papers saying, "Hey, I am going to abide by these laws." So that's something that, um, I guess maybe, I know what you're saying, but I'm not trying to put what you're answering, because
Right.
I'm agreeing. I think homeowner associations are awful, but maybe probably what you're trying to say is that there should be an option no matter where you live.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
now granted, if I buy a home here, I don't want the guy next door cooking meth and turning his property into a wasteland. It's going to devalue my property. But at the same time, like, if I don't have the right kind of fence, you're telling me I'm going to have to pay money to tear it all down and put a new one up? That's stupid. I I don't really know beyond. I mean, is that good?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, and I'm with you on the homeowner association, but yeah, I mean, the deal there, like I said, when you go to buy a house, you know beforehand that what the laws and restrictions and the deeds are, to that. So, I don't know how. Yeah, that would be that works. Trying to get rid of that. It's this is a tough one. I thought about this like this would be a good question.
Can I throw another one out at you, Uno, just based off what
Sure.
Joe was saying?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't personally. I understand why it happens, but I don't personally like eminent domain. The fact that the government can take land from a homeowner for their own use and then just give them whatever they deem is a correct purchasing price, and then tell them they have to go somewhere else. I don't personally like that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there based on you guys talking about homes.
Yeah, and that happened here, just right down the road from me. They put this huge toll road in, and a lot of people lost their homes or ranches that they've had for, centuries. That their families have owned. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So let me tell you on mine. It's funny, you and Brad both hit on the ones that I was I was going to say, because when I asked this question, I was like, something personal. It's going to be for me. Texas is the same way. Going back to Brad. There's a seatbelt law, but now there's not a helmet law for motorcycles, and that's I think that's it's silly, but mine was either going to be speeding or the war on drugs, and the reason I say the war on drugs is kind of to add to what Daniel said is protection of the taxpayer dollar. How many taxpayer dollars are wasted every day with putting people in drugs for putting people in jail for nonviolent offenses? You know what I mean? So that's one thing I was going to say. But I'll also, since you said that, I'll say speeding. And I know speeding can affect other people, but I think it's silly when you have interstates. I think there should be speed limits in cities and residential, when you're coming into a city, but on highways that don't have stop signs, that don't have intersections and that kind of stuff. I think it's silly that we have like an I-35 goes all the way from Mexico all the way up to Canada, straight through the middle of Texas, and it's silly. Like when I go to my dad's house, that it's 75 down here, but when I start hitting bigger cities, it goes down to 55. To me, that's silly. I think there shouldn't be any speed limit at all. I don't know. That's just a personal for me, because now I'm talking about strictly on interstate highways where there's no intersections, and there should be, there's on the toll road right here, right beside my house, the speed limit's 85 miles an hour. And you don't see people dying every day on that highway. It's crazy.
So the German Autobahn doesn't have speed limits, I don't think, and they have a lot fewer accidents per capita than America does.
If I'm not mistaken, they have a minimum speed limit law.
Yeah.
They
They
may.
have a minimum, but there's no maximum.
But if it were me, if I had any choice, I'd be like, man, let me when I'm going on a long road trip, let me go the speed that I want to go, set the cruise control, and let me go away. If somebody wants to go past me going 95 miles an hour, freaking let them. So I think it's absolutely silly that this day and age that we have speed limits on a major interstate at 55 miles an hour.
That said, isn't that that's dictated by the state, right? Didn't
That's the state.
Montana or Wyoming want to abolish their speed limit?
Well, here's the thing that I've actually seen. Somebody did a study on this. I'm not sure who. I'm not sure all the variables and numbers. I'm not sure any of that. But what they concluded with the study was people that drive fast are going to drive fast, speed limit or not. People that don't drive fast and don't feel comfortable driving fast, the speed limit might be 90 out here. But if somebody doesn't feel comfortable driving that fast, they're not going to. And if the speed limit's 70, but use my dad for example. He knows he can get a speeding ticket. He doesn't care. He goes 90 everywhere. If he's on the interstate, he'll set cruise control on 90 just about everywhere he goes. And that just kind of proves that if you're comfortable with driving fast, you're going to drive fast. If you're not, now, like Daniel's case, where Daniel got 674 tickets in about 3 months' time for speeding, it slowed him down because they were saying, you're going to lose your license and we're not going to insure you anymore because you're driving like Richard Petty, and you need to slow down. So it's obviously deterred him because now he drives like driving Miss Daisy. So it worked in that situation, but typically people are going to drive however they want to drive, speed limits or not.
I agree with you. I'm gonna add just a bit to this. It's a weird situation with speeding and all traffic laws, because as Joe and Uno pointed out, they are from the state legislatures, and constitutionally you have the right to move freely and unhindered. But the Constitution also allows for states to create their own laws as long as they don't infringe upon the Constitution itself. And when police take oaths, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution. So, traffic laws are one of those other. You're talking about taxpayer money with drugs in particular. I think traffic laws are another one that take up. Now, I do think there are some that have to be in place, obviously, but to the extent where you've got patrol cars out and their only duty is to write tickets, I don't personally care for that either. But
now that said, Uno put the caveat of it being interstate on there. That said, residential areas, you got kids out here playing around. You don't want some idiot blasting through 60 miles an hour, hit a kid and kill him. I mean, that would be horrible. You don't want that happening. So in residential areas, I think there's something.
Yeah, that's why I put that caveat in there, because that's obviously something that needs to to be monitored in town, because you don't want somebody just blasting through the city, running over people, and that's a different story. But just think about when you're going on a trip, or you're going from on a 3-hour trip or whatever. If I had my way, I can abolish the law. That's what I would want.
What do you think about unmarked police cars?
I think it's wrong.
Because how many times has somebody bought a set of lights off the internet and pulled a decent looking female over and ended up raping them and killing them or whatever? Should we allow unmarked police cars in any other instance than maybe undercover work or?
No, and that's good, Daniel, because I was actually about to bring something up along those lines. What I have a problem with is these places that are speed traps, and it's intentionally a speed trap. And there's one right down the road from where we live. It's a downhill, probably a quarter mile stretch downhill. The speed limit is 55, and it drops to 40 out of nowhere while you're going downhill. Well, if you're going 55 or 60 downhill and then it drops to 40, you have to apply the brakes pretty darn hard to cut that speed difference. Every day almost you go through, there's the cop sitting right there radar. And if he catches you speeding, he pulls you over and gives you a ticket. That's not trying to save lives or prevent accidents. That's trying to take advantage of the law that's in place and write tickets and make money off of it. Is what that is. And yeah, unmarked cars, totally against unmarked cars. I think it's to me, if you're a police officer, is supposed to uphold and enforce the law. That doesn't mean you should be constantly trying to catch somebody doing something. You should see and react. If you see somebody speeding and they're obviously speeding, you have a radar, they're speeding, pull them over. Don't go and hide behind a couple hedges that are, 6 foot high, sneak back in there and back in, and then sit there and try and catch somebody. To me, that's not enforcing the law. That's writing tickets to make money.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else on this one? Any law that you want to get abolished? Here's your chance to speak your mind.
Well, it's funny because the one Daniel went with, that was my other one, and I'm sure he knew that it was either seatbelt or they say this is the freest country in the world, but we have the highest people incarcerated per capita of anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I don't know what the stats are, but it's ridiculous.
I don't either, and a lot of them.
I know what it is. The last that I saw, it was we've got 376 million people, right, and over 6 million incarcerated. So you can do the math.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it was upwards of like 70%, 75% are in prison or jail for non-violent crimes.
And that's all privatized.
Right, yeah, you got prisons being built by bidders, and that's crazy too. It's non-violent criminals. If you pull over a 75-year-old man and he's got a pound of marijuana on him, and you send him to jail for 5 years, oh wow, really, really good job. You've really saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
You basically cost Doritos business because people aren't smoking that marijuana and going and buying 6 bags of Doritos.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a good investment for taxpayers, as far as I'm concerned on that. So, okay, good. Well, what's the next topic, Joe?
All right, guys. Next up, we're going to go with Daniel, and he's covering video games. What do you got for us, Daniel?
Sweet. I was glad to get this one for our kind of round out of all the topics. I think this being the 5th episode, everyone has hit every single topic at this point. So, my deal is I'm going to just ask a question, and I want this to become a discussion amongst us. So video games, right? We all play them. We all love them. It's come a long way in our lifetimes from being created in Uno's lifetime, to where we are now. I am curious about the future of video games, what you guys want to see, what you don't want to see, and where you think it could head or potentially head. And I'm not talking about next year or the year after. I'm talking about just, any time in the future. Where do you see video games going? We already know that, well, I won't say that. I'll leave that up to you guys to say because I know it's going to be brought up. But let's go with Joe first, since he's kind of the geekiest of us all.
Well, thanks, man. Something that just made it into Time Magazine last week, and this is something that's been on the rise in discussions a lot over the last couple of years. You got a guy named Palmer Luckey that started a business called Oculus Rift. They were bought by Facebook, and they are in the process of creating the Oculus VR. Right on the coattails of that, you've also got Sony making one for their PlayStation 4 system that's going to be a supplemental piece. And you've also got 2 or 3 other I think Valve, the guys that make the Steam video game deal for computers, are making their own VR headset. It's a ton of VR, virtual reality type stuff. And, you look at, when we were kids, the movie Richie Rich came out, and you had Macaulay Culkin with this giant headpiece on, holding this big wired gun, and everything in his vision was super blocky, like it was a Nintendo 64 game or like a PlayStation PS1 game. That's not the way that it's happening anymore, and I haven't experienced it myself yet, but from everything I've heard from professionals in the industry that are doing podcasts and that sort of thing, it's getting very, very, very close to photorealistic. You're talking, what is the name of that movie that had WALL-E? WALL-E. You know how everybody walked around? They didn't walk in WALL-E. All the humans rode around on stuff. They were all out of shape, and they were all totally in their virtual worlds, never interacted with another human in real life. It sounds like it's completely feasible that that could be a dangerous future for us, because I mean, you know, you can put earphones in, put this little headset on, and short of feeling the breeze on your face, you can be on the beach, and it will look and feel like you're on the beach. I mean, they're talking about these things even have to have specific refresh rates on the glasses so that it doesn't throw your equilibrium off, make you sick or anything. So they are doing some real, very serious biometric testing and research with this sort of thing. So I think virtual reality is the next step. And it sounds cheesy to say that. That's been coming for 30 years now. But I really think it's got a very serious shot. I mean, you've got 3 or 4 major companies that are on board with it.
Uno, let's go with you next.
Well, I want to kind of talk about what Joe was saying too, because I kind of feel like that's the wave of the future also. But to be honest, I don't know if that sounds great. You know, it sounds cool, but you know, when I play video games to get away from real world, right? So if it's to me, if it's so realistic, I don't know how into it I'm going to be. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. I like how it's progressed over the years. You know, coming from the Atari to where we are now, but it's still like you're not inside the world. You're just controlling something else that is that is like in anything from Halo to Smite or whatever. You're in control of that, and you're playing a game. Now, if it gets to the point where it's like you're putting a helmet on and you're having to do the Tony Stark thing where you're pushing things over here and all this stuff, to me that doesn't sound like fun for me. I don't know. I think it sounds cool, or like the Total Recall thing where they put you to sleep and all of a sudden you think that what's going on is actually happening, and I don't know. I don't know if that sounds very fun to me, but it sounds cool though. But I don't know. I mean, just getting. This is a weird question for me because to be honest, I have no idea. Just keep making good games and to make it to where if they can just make it to where the system doesn't have issues, that's all I really want. Cool games, faster system. You're not having to wait to load so much crap and not having to, party up every 5 seconds because the parties aren't working here, and just making the servers cleaner. To me, that where they operate more efficiently. But if we go to solar, that ain't gonna happen. So, but anyway, I guess I don't know if that's much of an opinion or what you're looking for, but that's all I've got to say about that.
Bradley?
Well, I mean, Joe, of course, hit the nail right on the head with the virtual reality. That's, of course, what I was thinking, too, when you first brought this topic up. I'm okay with virtual reality as a supporting role to what video gaming and consoles are now. I don't want virtual reality to take over to where 10 or 15 years from now, there's nobody playing consoles with controllers. Everybody's just in their virtual world, I think virtual reality is cool. I think it could be fun, depending on, like the Minecraft. I don't play Minecraft. But at the Microsoft show, when they showed the HoloLens, is that what theirs is? When they did the Minecraft thing with the HoloLens, where they actually, had it on the wall, and then he moved it down and set it up on a table, and it popped up this three-dimensional. You can still tell it's obviously a video game, but you have control with your voice, with your hands. Something like that could be entertaining and fun to me. I just don't want it to get to the point like what Joe was saying, with Richie Rich, where you're no longer sitting down on your couch playing with your buddies. Instead, you're standing on a pad of some kind, putting a helmet on, and pretending you're holding a gun. And I don't want that to take over and be their main focus. I'm cool with virtual reality being something that you can buy alongside of a system that works with it. But what I want is I don't want, Xbox / Go Around, Microsoft were saying there was going to be no offline gaming, that you were going to have to be connected. I don't want that either. Some people can't afford internet. Some people don't have access to stable, fast internet. I want gaming to basically stay the same, but I do want them to advance graphics, load speeds, stability. But I want to have the option of, if I don't want internet, I still want to be able to play games. With the way they're going, they're getting to the point where you're going to have to be connected to the internet before you can even play anything.
Yep.
Okay, now on to on the VR topic, since we're on it and everyone's in agreement that that's where things are headed next. Let's get some feelings on some VR issues, because I know, and I've had this discussion with Joe, there's a lot of information out there about VR, where it's headed, and obviously one of the big things that people, I'm guessing, middle-aged men in general have been pushing for is using VR in sexual situations, which I don't want it to go there. I'm looking for video game stuff, and they're trying to use the technology in a whole different realm. Beyond that, do you think that being, like you said, standing up and having to be in motion and all these sorts of things are going to catch on? Because I saw a really cool, you guys have seen Shark Tank, right? Okay, well, there's the guy who was on there, him and his partner had created, it looked awesome. I showed it to Joe. It was a mechanism that you would stand on, and it had a non-stick surface on the bottom, and as you would move your feet on it and you wore a VR headset, you would be walking through, this place. But the thing is that no one would buy it. None of the, millionaires on the show would buy it, because they were saying that the reason people buy video games is so they can sit down on their couch and relax at the end of the day. They don't want to be up in motion, Wii Fit caught on shortly, and then, where did it go? You've got all these workout things that you can do with video games, and people aren't out just, dropping tons of weight, even though it'd be a great exercise, because people want to relax when they're playing video games. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, I think I have seen the phrase exergaming in print before. So, like games like DDR and that sort of thing do exist. People have lost a lot of weight doing those in the past. That said, I don't know. It depends on what I'm in the mood for at the time, because I've had, I get home from sitting all day long. I like to go for a jog. I'm a big guy, but I still like to get up and move around, because it helps me ease stress. But I also play video games to help ease stress. So if I could combine those, hey, could be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. Depends on the mood I'm in.
I mean, I think on like any type of game like that, if it's like a sports oriented, like with the Wii, like with the Tiger Woods golf or tennis or whatever, baseball. I think that kind of thing is awesome, but as far as like, but I don't really play those games, or I might play them if they were cool, if they were better off, like saying playing a baseball game where it actually felt like you were actually sitting, waiting for a pitch to come down to you, and you swing and hit it and that kind of stuff, kind of like the Wii was kind of geared towards. That might be something I might actually get back into, playing sports games that way. But as far as the games that I like to play right now, I don't see me ever wanting to strap whatever those things are on your head and take the time to run through the woods and act like I'm running through the woods and acting like I have a pistol and I'm going to shoot them, and then I don't know. To me, it just doesn't sound. It doesn't sound all that fun. I kind of like having a controller in my hand and doing it that way, like Brad said. So
go back to what you initially touched on. You talked about sexual content. The sad truth is that VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray were all chosen as mediums to progress forward because the pornography industry chose them as their tools. You know, at the time Blu-ray came out, you also had HD DVDs that Microsoft was trying to push. So you had the PlayStation 3 played Blu-rays, the Xbox 360 had an HD DVD drive you could buy with it to play HD DVDs, and both came out at the same time. The pornography industry chose Blu-rays, and that's what you see on the shelves in Walmart today are Blu-rays, not HD DVDs. That platform died. So unfortunately, that is a driving factor.
You have some more to add, or you want me to go?
Yeah, I forgot about the sexual part of it. Man, if that's the wave of the future, using that, we're in big trouble. I mean, like kind of like just to touch on what Joe said.
I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you from everything that I'm seeing, the video game industry has been picking up things from the sex industry, and I'll tell you why. It's because VR was created initially for video games and for that sort of lifestyle, and people saw it, and immediately what they did was said, we can combine the sex with that. And so, like, say you and your wife were in two different countries, you could link up. There would be objects, toys involved, and they would feel realistic, and you would see what would be taking place on the screen. And this is what is taken over. There's a lot of information out there on it, and I've seen it. And I mean, I haven't seen people doing this sort of stuff. I've just seen people commenting on it and quite a bit, and it's scary to me that's where, because like you said, you're headed for people where there's no relationships beyond their virtual world. That's what I see happening.
Well,
I'll never figure out the three shells, though. I mean,
the what?
the three shells. You know the three shells, don't you?
No.
Come on, somebody. Demolition Man. It's from Demolition Man.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many things that I could say and touch on that, but that's just, to me, it's just that if that's the way it's going, there's people that are going to buy that. That's just pitiful. But pornography is a big business, man. I'd hate to see it get involved with the video game industry. All right, Brad, go ahead.
Well, to touch on that first part with the sexual interaction, I guess what you'd call it. I don't necessarily want that, but if there's a market for it, and you're going to require an age limit just like there is now. I guess it's 18 or is it 21? It's 18, isn't it? I think it's 18 that requires you to be 18 before you can purchase legally any kind of pornographic adult material. Like I said, I don't necessarily want it or think it's morally great, but if there's a market for it, people are going to try to make money off of it. That's what they're in business for. I don't want that to take over video games or anything. I don't think it will take over. Video games is such a big thing. I don't think it's going to take it over. But, if there's a market for some company to make a adult interactive video game virtual reality console, that's a mouthful. But if there's a company that wants to make that and sell it, and there's a market for it for adults, by all means, that's your prerogative, your right as a business in a free market to do that. I don't know. That's a touchy thing. Like what Daniel was saying. Yeah, it's not the same type of thing as being in the same room. The same. It's like you're never gonna be able to. They might be able to make something feel, or might be able to see your significant other, but they're not going to be able to reproduce the intimacy that a married couple that loves each other has when they're actually together. Maybe it's a good thing. That might help people from might help people stay faithful. Maybe if you're gone on a 3-month long business trip and you're getting lonely, you have that available. You can hook up with your significant other from a country apart and not be tempted with other ways of finding that kind of intimacy. But I hope it doesn't take over. I don't think it will. What was the other question after that?
Do you think that VR and like active motion is something that's going to catch on because people like video games to be able to relax and hang out? And I appreciate that last point that you made. That I hadn't thought about that. Being married couples potentially being able to use that as a way to stay intimate when they could be apart. I hadn't even thought about that.
You know me, I'm full of intimacy and feelings. Um, yeah, I mean, I think, like y'all were already saying, there's the DDR, there's the Wii, there's the Wii Fit, where you stand on a little pad thing and you can do yoga and you can sit on it and act like you're bobsledding, cool runnings. I think this is gonna go. More things with virtual reality are going to go to that. What if, like, say, somebody like Joe, for instance, that works with computers on a daily basis, works in an office setting. What if, instead of having it's hot there, what if when he gets a 15-minute break to go for a walk, but it's 120 degrees outside, what if they have a system, there on his computer where he could put on a headset, change of clothes, boom, he's outside. He's running through the Swiss Alps, that might be something that would be a benefit, a good thing. I don't think it's going to take over. A lot of video gamers are lazy, myself included. I'm not wanting to run for video games. I don't want to run in real life, much less in a virtual reality world. I want to sit and control somebody or something with my thumbs. That's what I want to do. So I don't think it's going to take it over, but I think there's definitely going to be a bigger push in it when VR gets wired out.
Who's got 2 thumbs and doesn't like to run? This guy. All right, Joe, you can go with the next one.
All right, so the next one will be, I guess I'll go ahead and go into that. I have movies this week, and I wanted to keep it on topic with geek stuff. The Fantastic Four, guys. That movie has completely bombed out. Now, I haven't seen it yet. I kind of want to. Uno, did you get to see it? Oh yeah, you've had a lot going on.
No, I haven't got to see it yet. I'm gonna try to see it this week, but I haven't had a chance.
The thing is getting like a Rotten Tomatoes Metacritic type rating of like 9%. Okay, that's not 9 out of 10. That's 9%. So what? I guess my question for you guys is how could we make a good Fantastic Four movie? Because it hasn't happened yet, apparently. Who would you have playing the roles? What kind of things would you guys do to try to make a good Fantastic Four movie? We'll start with Uno.
Okay, man. This kind of goes along the lines we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Them redoing all these movies, and if they're going to redo them, they better do them right, or they're never going to have faith in that movie again, right? So, I don't know. I think Marvel has. We talked about this also. Marvel's done a real good job of integrating all those movies in together with all the other Marvel movies. So if they could have done that and put it on the same lines as with the Avengers and Hulk and Captain America, if somehow they would have integrated that into that and used those characters, I think they probably would have had a better following. And oh man, that's tough. It's hard for me to say because I haven't seen the movie yet. But I would say if Rotten Tomatoes given it a 9%, it's probably bad.
I guess maybe here's a more concise question. Who would you have playing the 4 roles?
Oh, Lord. Man. That's a good question. I don't have an answer on that. I don't know. I mean, it's funny. You never know with these movies. Like I'll bring Jamie Foxx into this. He played Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, I would have never thought Jamie Foxx would have been a good, superhero type person or whatever. But I thought I thought it was a pretty good job in that. He did a pretty good job in that movie. It was a good movie. To me, I don't think it's the actors that basically make a movie. I think it's how the movie's written and how they put it out. I mean, not put it out. That doesn't make sense. But how they actually write the movie and execute the writing of it. I mean, there's so many. I mean, look at Star Wars. When the original Star Wars New Hope, they had a bunch of no-name actors. No one knew who Harrison Ford was, and look what that turned into. But the movie was written great, So I don't necessarily think that the actors are going to play that much of a role in it. I mean, obviously they are, but if the movie is written well, it's going to do well. I mean, look at what's it called? The other Marvel movie that was a huge hit with Chris Pratt. What's it called?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, there's a bunch of no-name people in that movie. Man, it was a great movie because it was written really well. It was just there was nothing bad about that movie. Oh, crap! Whoops. Sorry. So I mean, that's a tough question, man. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't answer for you. But if the movie's that bad, it means it was written really bad.
Yeah. Daniel, who would you have in the movie? Do you have any ideas on roles?
Man, oh man, putting it on the spot. Let's see. Who are the four members of the Fantastic Four? You've got
Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, The Thing, and Invisible Woman.
Okay. I understand what Uno's saying, and I agree to some of it. I think the writing absolutely can make or break a movie. I also think the actors can make or break a movie. I think the first Fantastic Four was broken because of the cast that they had to play it. Now, I haven't seen the new one, so I can't comment on the actors that played it. I know they are some big name young up and comers. But I'll tell you, for me, what I like is I like to see characters in superhero movies that even though some of them might come off kind of silly and funny at times, they still seem hard enough to play the role of a superhero. And I'll give you some examples. Is that what's his name plays Iron Man, has some very quick comments at times. Robert Downey Jr. But, when the heat gets turned up, it seems like he is able to handle the pressure and that he's, pretty hardcore. Thor's the same way. I feel like Christian Bale did that with Batman pretty well. So for me, Fantastic Four has always came off as just too goofy and silly and kiddie. And I'm not saying that the movie shouldn't be able to be seen by kids, but there needs to be some hardness to the characters. Man, who could play who? I can't give you a list right off the top of my head. That's strange because you've got certain guys that have played these superhero. Some of them have done it well in certain roles and not so well in other roles, like Ryan Reynolds with Green Lantern was terrible, but as Deadpool, he's awesome. And you've got Chris...
You assume he's awesome. Deadpool's not out yet.
Well, I mean, he did Deadpool and Wolverine.
He did not pull a good Deadpool in that movie.
Well, maybe not, but he seemed much more fit for that role than he did as Green Lantern. And also Chris, whatever his name, Evans, that does Captain America, was terrible as the, he just seemed to, as Human Torch, he just seemed goofy, but as Captain America, I quite like him. So it's a strange phenomenon to be able to play some guys well and not the others. So I can't give you a list of actors off the top of my head.
You want to give it a shot, Brad?
Yeah, to be fair to Ryan Reynolds, because I'm sure he's going to see this, in Wolverine, once he became Deadpool, they did have his mouth sewed shut. And that's such a large factor in Deadpool. In the early stages of that movie, when he was just Slade Wilson, he pulls off a good... Any movie he's been in, he could pull off a good, smart-aleck comedic role. He does a good job in those roles. And early on in that movie, he had that... You know, that I remember the scene where they ride up on the elevator, and he goes out with the two swords and just, you know, he's cutting bullets in half, ricochet bullets. Then he gets done, he goes, okay, everybody's dead, come out. You know, it's just, he's a good, smart aleck role. The first Fantastic Four wasn't, to me, awful, but it wasn't good either, and it was because of the cast. I haven't seen the new one. One thing I will say, I feel like they could do a better Fantastic Four if they went away from the original 4 members. There's other members of the Fantastic Four. Those 4, Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch, are the original 4 members of Fantastic Four. I feel like, you know, I don't know how familiar everybody is with Power Man, Luke Cage. No. She-Hulk was a member of the Fantastic Four. Storm was a member of the Fantastic Four. Who else? That's all I can think of. I will say, I do know who I would like to see play some roles. Victor Von Doom. I think Benedict Cumberbatch could pull off a very good Victor Von Doom. The guy they had in the first 2 movies was awful. The Thing, you know, Ben Grimm, is that his name? Ben Grimm? Grimmy, Swanson, Samsonite. I think it's been Grimm as a Thing. That I could see Tom Hardy pulling that off. Obviously, he's done some other roles. He did Bane, but if they did something with like Luke Cage, Power Man, The Rock, I think would be a cool. If you don't know who Luke Cage is, if you look him up, he's a. I'm not sure if he was actually African American or what he was, but it's a black guy, and he's just jacked. He has ridiculous strength abilities. The Rock could pull that off. The Rock, when he was in Hercules, he's huge. Dude's massive. He could pull that off. The other ones, I don't know. I think Mr. Fantastic, he just isn't a very interesting person to me. And the way they portray him in the first movie, you know, where he's like Stretch Armstrong is what I wanted to call him. Oh, look, Stretch Armstrong in a funny-looking suit. So I feel like if they maybe change the characters a little bit, they might do all right. I know they probably want to stick with the original 4, but I just, with Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, it's just hard to... Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel was also a member of the Fantastic Four. She's basically like a female Superman, if I'm not mistaken. But, like I said, Benedict Cumberbatch, Victor Von Doom, I can see that. Tom Hardy is the Thing. I can see that.
So I'm going to take a stab. I looked up famous actors and actresses so that I could try to come up with some of these roles. I think Matthew McConaughey could be a cool Mr. Fantastic. I don't know. That's a guess. As for what would you think about?
Let's save the world. All right, all right, all right.
What about Jennifer Lawrence as the Invisible Woman?
She could pull that off if she wasn't in Wolverine or in X-Men already. That would just be conflicting casting.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
But I mean, I definitely think she could pull. She's a phenomenal actress, I think. But
You're talking about them Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. She's Mystique. I'm an idiot. Let's see. Trying to think. Bruce Willis, maybe, as the Thing. I'm wondering if he could pull it off. And I don't know who I would want as the Human Torch. What guy would I like to see burn alive? I don't know. That's
Johnny
probably
Knoxville.
Flame on!
I'll tell you what now.
He would be funny in that.
Okay, now that he's done that, if they're gonna stick with the goofy, kind of comedic style Human Torch like they did with Chris Evans, I think Johnny Knoxville wouldn't be too bad in that role. And I'll say, as far as the thing, this just came to me. I don't know why, but since you've already got what's his name playing Thor,
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if he's older or younger, but they've got another brother named Luke, and he is much shorter and much stockier. He's actually built quite like a bodybuilder, not quite that big, but he's much shorter, compact, and bigger than the other brothers in the Hemsworth clan. I think he wouldn't be too bad in it.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Or Vin Diesel maybe as the thing.
Vin Diesel could definitely do, yeah. He could pull the thing off.
Except he's Groot.
Right, but
We're touching so many guys that are already in the Marvel universe. Oh.
yeah, but I mean, it's just like, with Chris Evans, he's Human Torch, Captain America.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, Deadpool. That's two
Russell
different-
Crowe
that's
is
Marvel,
Mr.
but,
Fantastic.
See, man, to me, just Mr. Fantastic is not an interesting character.
No, he's the
I
least
just-
interesting of the four for sure.
I just think it's
Ryan
I
Gosling.
don't know. The Human Torch. I was sitting there trying to think, and if you're gonna do the goofy role, yeah, I can see Johnny Knoxville.
Charlize Theron maybe as the Invisible Woman.
Can't stand her.
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, man. Jeez Louise.
Oh, gosh.
I had somebody I was thinking about for the Human Torch, and now I cannot think of it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in the Batman movie. He could probably do a Mr. Fantastic, even though, like I said, I think that character sucks. I could see
I
him
like
doing.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I could see him doing that.
Yeah.
If they're gonna go with the original four, like Brad was saying, and they're gonna do the Invisible Woman or whatever she's called, I think the girl that played in the new True Grit, I think she was only like 14 when she did it, but she just did a movie with Jessica Alba and Samuel L. Jackson. I can't remember the name of it, but she plays like some kind of an assassin that was bred from birth, because she was an orphan to be this assassin. And even though it's more of a comedy type movie, I could see her doing some real kind of superhero type action stuff. So I can't remember her name for the life of me, but I think
I
she's
had to look
probably
it up. Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, I think she would do all right in that kind of a role.
Okay. All right, guys, that was my topic for the week. That leaves us with Brad bringing up sports.
All right, sports. There we go. This, will probably have the best insight into this because he has children. I'm sure you guys have seen it. I know me and Daniel have talked about it some. A lot of places across the country, not to steal a phrase from Joe Rogan, but I'm going to, they're nerfing sports. There's a lot of places around the country, especially youth sports, where they don't keep score anymore. There's no scorekeeping. There's no winning and losing. And their argument behind this is youth sports are to develop skills and have fun, basically. My whole thing on it is, how do you grade skills if you don't keep score? The team that wins probably has the more skillful players most of the time. If a team starts out the year, they lose their first 5 games, and then their next 5 games, playing on the same type of competitive level, they win, you're probably going to be able to say, as a whole, they improved their skill set with that sport. how do you judge skills without keeping score? There's been people. There was a guy in California, I believe it was, um, football. I can't remember if it was Pee Wee, middle school, what the age group was. It was young kids. He actually came under a lot of fire and scrutiny and ended up losing his coaching job because they were playing somebody that wasn't as good as them, and they kicked their pants off. They ended up beating them like 70 something to 10. Well, his his defense was, well, I didn't run up the score. We just kept playing, and that's just how it happened. Well, they ended up canning him because they said, oh, it's not fair. It's not right. Well, life's not fair. Life's not easy. Sports to me is to teach you the harder you work, the better you get at it to an extent. Some of it is God-given ability. You can only get so good at something that your abilities allow. But the point is to teach you winning and losing, is to teach you don't always get your way, is to teach you that you have to work hard, put time in to get better at something. If you take winning and losing out of it, why are we even doing it? I just want to see what you all think about that.
It's all fun. No, if you don't learn to lose gracefully on the field, you're not going to. You carry those lessons over with you into life. You're not going to be. I mean, when you don't get what it is in life that you want, you're not going to be able to shake it off and move. I mean, football, you learn, you get knocked down, you get back up, you go again, 5 seconds at a time, 10 seconds at a time, however long a play is. Getting beat around is part of the game. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Life goes on. I hate these participation trophy garbage. We gave them all a trophy. Well, did they all win? They're all winners in our book. But they only scored 2 points. They definitely didn't win. That drives me nuts. It makes me kind of sick. No.
Yeah, you're next on my list here, going in line. So.
Yeah. Oh man, this is a subject, man. I just don't think back to the trophy thing. Like my kid was when my son was playing baseball, and they did pretty good, but at the end of the season, everybody gets a trophy at the end of the year. And I'm like, did we win? I made the comment, did we win the championship? No, we didn't. And everybody's getting these huge trophies, just to put in the room to say that they played baseball. Well, when I was a kid, I remember we got second place one year, and we got this stupid little red ribbon that said second place, and I hated it. I was like, I don't want I don't even want this ribbon. I wanted the blue ribbon and a trophy. We should have won this game. You put all this time and effort in it, and you end up losing. And I just think it's a disservice to kids that if you're teaching them that even if you tried hard, you're going to get something out of it. And me being a fat kid my whole life, I played sports since I can remember. My coaches didn't take it easy on me when we were running sprints. We had to make it. In basketball, we had to you had a time limit to run ladders or whatever it's called. We had to run to the free throw line, then back to the baseline, then whatever they're called. We didn't. Just a minute. We didn't have. They didn't take it easy on me. If I didn't make it, I had to run it again, and I had to run it again until I made the time. So it's just teaching them life lessons that when they get in the real world and they get in a job, that if you don't make that sell, then you're not going to feed your family that week. You know what I mean? If whatever the job is, if you continually produce bad results at work, you're not going to feed your family. You got to go find something else to do. And that goes in the education system too. That's a whole nother story. But I just think you're doing kids a disservice, teaching them that. So I agree with you. I mean, I think it's absolutely pitiful that they've with sports, baseball in general. Baseball is very clear. There's no ties. You either win or you lose, right? So if you didn't win, too bad. Try to win next year. Work harder.
Yeah, I guess I'm last, aren't I? I I think it is asinine to have, and this goes beyond giving kids trophies and all this craziness. It is the trickle down from professional sports, and the sissy mentality that has been developed angers me, and is probably 90% of why I don't watch sports anymore. And it's not, I have started watching things with a group of guys that don't care about keeping track of who is where in the rankings, but UFC has become really popular, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, football, you can't hit above the shoulders, and it's geared towards the safety, and guys will take 5 weeks off because, they tweaked a tendon in the bottom of their foot, and, it's just the sissy mentality drives me nuts. Me and Brad played travel baseball, and both of us played all the way up through college. And playing travel and baseball, not only was there tryouts and cuts, so if you weren't good enough, you didn't make the team. But if you didn't produce enough during the season, they wouldn't ask you to come back and play again the following year. And you played a tournament every single weekend, where you played at least 5 games guaranteed, and then if you made it to the championship, maybe more. And we did that for 8 months out of the year. So we were playing 140 games a year a lot of the times, and there wasn't no trophies given out to losers. And baseball's a strange sport anyway, in the fact that to be good, you get a hit 3 out of 10 times. So you're already learning some discipline, and I hate that, man. Having these high school football teams that don't do cuts, and they have 80 people on the sideline and 11 people can play. That's just, be a part of the team. Garbage. You're not a part of the team. That drives me crazy, man.
You get to have pizza at the end of the year, though.
Yeah, you get a jersey, you get to stand there, and you're really a big part of the team. If you win a state championship in football, you get a ring, and you get to say, "I was on the state championship team." Well, what position did you play?
Guard and tackle, baby. Guarded the water and tackled anybody that got near it.
It just drives me. It drives me bananas. I understand there has to be some safety put in place. That's why you have a helmet in some of these sports. That's why you do things like learn how to take care of your arm and all this sort of stuff. But to put the restrictions that they're putting on some of these things, it drives me crazy. This sissy mentality is the stupidest thing ever, and it's killing sports in general, let alone the mentality of our youth and them growing up to think that I didn't get to be part of the team, so now I'm angry. Like, shut up, you're a sissy. Jeez, that just drives me crazy, man.
Well, I will say one thing. I remember when I was in Little League, and this rule I'm okay with. In Little League, it was a rule that every game, every player had to get one at bat or play in the field 1 inning. Now, there were some kids on my Little League team, we were darn good in Little League, that if that rule wasn't in place, they would have had so many stitches in their rear end and splinters in their rear end, they'd have been in the hospital for the rest of their life because they were awful. I'm fine with having, at that age, 10, 11, 12, yeah, you don't want a kid to get on the team. And now there's little leagues that had cuts, but where I grew up, we had so many teams that they usually weren't cuts because there wasn't enough kids to be cut. Each team had 11 or 12 guys, and there wasn't so many kids that they had to make cuts. So I'm okay with 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Okay, coach, you have to play them 1 at bat. One at bat, if you play that right, it's not going to affect the outcome of a baseball game. What our coach used to do was, I'm not going to say any names, but there was one kid in particular. His dad was an assistant coach. His dad knew he wasn't any good, and so what his dad would do is he would start him. He would hit leadoff, and then after he got that 1 at bat, he set the rest of the game on the bench. And that I'm okay with that. But this whole thing of everybody has to play, there's no cutting, everybody gets a trophy, it's ridiculous. Like Daniel was saying, when we played hurt. most tournaments, if you won the championship, you got a trophy or a plaque. Most of them, second place didn't get nothing. Hey, thanks for coming out. Come back next year. If you win, you'll get something. The whole, like Daniel's saying, it's just the whole sissy mentality of, talking about one of the teams we played with. The first time I made that team, I was going in to be a sophomore in high school, and everybody else was going to be seniors. I was the youngest one on that team, and the coach told me, hey, you're already at a disadvantage. You're 14, 15 playing with 18-year-olds. And I didn't play my first probably 6 or 7 games. Never even got off the bench. But when I did get to play, I produced, and then from then on I started the rest of the time. And what that, taught me was I didn't get down or give up when I wasn't playing. I said, hey, these guys are older. I just have to keep working hard. And when you get the chance, in that moment of pressure, it teaches you to perform and stay calm. And if you don't, then it teaches you can't buckle under pressure. You got to perform under pressure, whether that's job, sports, whatever it is. If you perform, most times if you perform, you're going to get the rewards you should get.
Yeah, corporations don't hand out thank you trophies, though. Corporate America is cutthroat. If you don't perform, you're out of a job. And that's what I think. That's the buckle right there. I mean, you're learning to deal with tough situations playing sports as a kid that you're going to have to take with you as an adult, as a teenager. It's like college isn't easy. If you want to graduate, you got to work. You got to work for it. You can't just not. I mean, you can't just ride the coattails of somebody else and get a degree.
And see, go ahead. I just and taking the scorekeeping out of stuff, there is no pressure moments. If it's the bottom of the 7th inning, bottom of the 9th inning, 2 outs, bases loaded, what's the score? We don't know. We don't keep score. Oh, this at bat's just as meaningless as the first at bat. There is no pressure moments. You don't get to deal with handling stress and adversity.
Well, Timmy struck out. We're all going out for ice cream.
I'll tell you something else that taught me, and this is I've got a great example right now. Something else that taught me, especially when I got into college, and Brad can probably attest to this too. Once I got into college, there was a lot of politics that were involved with the teams. You needed to be liked, which I wasn't most of the time. Now, granted, I was younger and dumber, and made a lot of mistakes, had a bad attitude and stuff. But I learned that sometimes just because you're better doesn't mean that you'll get what you think you deserve. And right now, you guys know I'm currently jobless. I've had a lot of interviews, and I've went into the interviews thinking I absolutely should get this job. There's no way that I've got a 4-year college degree. I'm going into a job making $10 an hour. There's no way I shouldn't get this job. And I've been turned down for jobs. Now, if I turn around and pitched a hissy fit and thought, oh, I'm so deserving of this job that, I'm going to take a stand here because I deserve this. Every time I've gotten turned down for a job, I'd be standing out there all day long. And I can't do that because that's not life. Sometimes you don't get the things that you deserve in life, and sports taught me that.
Yep, you got to get back up and take your hits. Keep going. Keep plugging away. Thanks for that, Brad. That was a great topic. Guys, that will round out the 9-ball roundtable for this week's episode. We appreciate you giving it a listen. Give us a follow and a thumbs up on the video here. And if you got any more questions, we address those questions at the beginning of the episode with solar power and that sort of thing. Leave them down below. Leave us a couple of comments, questions, whatever you got. We really appreciate it. Share with your friends. Tell them all about us. And come back next time. We really appreciate it. Y'all have a great week. And make sure to rack them up.
Rack 'em. Rack ball.